How are you doing, guys?
I'm doing fine, thank you. What about you?
Great, very good. Today we are fresh. Fresh, like a carrot. You know? So like we have a lot of work, but we're good. So let's do what we're gonna do today. Okay, yesterday we started the week with some reading, no?
Yes.
That's very nice. What we are going to do right now is to watch the next video to see the objectives of the next week and to find vocabulary that we need for the next part, okay? So the last month's objective was to find a, what's the name? We were forming words, remember? That we were taking parts and syllables to form other words. For example, we had the verb admit, and we transformed it into a noun, which is a noun.
Admission?
Excellent. We take the verb admit and we transform it into the noun admission. And then we get, for example, the verb, let's say, what? Citizen, which is the person who lives in a city. Citizen, and we transform it into the noun. How do you transform the verb citizen into a noun? Let's remember this. We take the name citizen and we transform it into a noun.
I don't remember, sorry.
No, not at all. What is the faculty of having the, it's not a faculty, it is the, how do you go when you have the nationality of a specific, well, equivalent to a nationality, but for a city?
Citizenship?
Excellent. Yes, Connie. Citizenship. Very good. Which is the word that we have over here. Citizenship. Right? If you are the inhabitant of a city, you are, no, you have a citizenship, an official citizenship. Which is nice. What about if you prefer something, which is the verb prefer, then you have a
preference.
Preference, that's correct. You see? So these are the transformations that we are talking about. We are taking different syllables in order to transform these words into other words. This is one of the main topics that we practiced in the exam. Transforming verbs, adjectives, and nouns into other nouns using the different suffixes. These particular suffixes, attention, these suffixes are only for nouns, exclusively for nouns, right? There are other types of words, of formations. And this is what I want to see today. Okay, today we are going to see precisely action versus linking, noun formation. Yeah, precisely we are going to take another view using the following thing. Let me just move some things, noun formation, and this one. Today's objective is going to go through forming verbs. Now we are going to do the opposite, right? Now we are going to go from nouns to verbs. Yes, one of the abilities is to eliminate the one syllable, but another ability is to add into to detect new or to form new verbs by using a specific suffix. And suffixes in this case are super simple. Super simple. The task goes like this. Look at this chart. This is a very simple chart that we can start using. Let me make it more clear because it's impossible to see the chart. Okay, there we go. 8, and if I is an ice. Yesterday we saw a verb like that. Who remembers in the reading exercise there was a verb. Do you remember it? You don't remember it. I'm looking for it. Wait. Where did I put it? Yes, here we are. It was over here. And this weekend, physicists at the University of Alberta are putting the legend to the test as they scrutinize hair alleged to have come from Bigfoot. Alex was not in the class, so can you tell, for example, can you tell Alex what was yesterday's reading about? Why are we talking about hair?
I remember that it was from some creature.
Yeah.
That the genetics didn't know what exactly was. And they suppose that could be a mammal, an animal, something.
But what were they trying to discover? Or what were they trying to what was the original idea of the hair?
It could be a creature, no, an animal, or no.
Which specific creature?
Which I don't remember her name, but
yeah, it was over there. Do you want help?
Yes.
Okay, Connie, help us. What was the...
Bigfoot.
Exactly, it was Bigfoot. Yeah, the geneticist tried to say, okay, there was a group of people in where was it? In the Himalayas,
Yeah.
who thought that the Bigfoot, the Yeti, existed. But then the geneticist took the hair and it was like, nah, this is not Bigfoot. This is probably what was the
A
name?
bison.
A
Or
bison, exactly.
a bison or a bear.
Or a bear, exactly. And this is when we get to the example. They scrutinize hair alleged to have some come from Bigfoot. They scrutinize, which scrutinize comes from the word scrutiny.
Scrutiny.
Scrutiny is a noun that means careful and complete examination, right? Similar to inspection. So to scrutinize is to look at or examine something carefully. You see? A very similar approach, very similar meaning, but the difference between scrutinize and scrutiny is the definition. The synonym, the equivalent synonym is from a different family. The synonym for scrutiny is inspection, and it finishes in shun. Shun is a suffix for nouns. You see? When in the other, the scrutinize is an action, a verb, something that you do. Therefore, the definition contains a connector to. Connector to is useful for nouns. No, for verbs, yes. Verbs versus nouns, right? So this is the first thing that I want you to have in mind. What is the difference between a verb and a noun? What can you tell me? Let's make a comparison. Here. What's the difference between a verb?
The noun is a naming word. It's something that have a name.
Good.
And a verb is an action. It's something that the thing do.
Excellent. That the thing does. I do, you do, and the thing does. Okay, a naming word. When we talk about nouns, we are talking about names of things. When we're talking about verbs, we're talking about actions, things that you do precisely. Very good. That was a very, very, very good definition of them. Grammatically, they have different properties. Okay? Properties. A noun can be either countable or uncountable. A noun is usually described by
An adjective.
excellent. Adjectives, quantifiers, possessives, articles. And that's pretty much it. Nouns are naming words. These are the properties of nouns. On the other side, verbs have different properties as well. They can be plural or singular. What do you mean with plural and singular? Well, if I say, I do, I, they, we, and you do. This particular conjugation is considered plural. Right? And for he, she, it,
Singular.
what is the conjugation for do? He, she, it.
Does.
Excellent. She, it, does. This is singular. A singular verb. So what is a characteristic of the singular verb?
Is with the S at the end.
Exactly. A singular verb ends in S. You see what I mean? These are the difference between verbs versus nouns. If you take that in mind, if you understand this, you will identify verbs and nouns super easily, and you will distinguish between them thanks to the termination. Yes, the ending will determine what type of word we are talking about, because when you are thinking in Spanish, we are easily going to confuse the two different families. This is super clear when we are talking about or compare the sound of suffixes. Sound of suffixes. Let me just change the color here. Listen to this. Suffixes for nouns. Shun, iti, ness, ism, meant, and, ship, ich, which sound super different from eight, and if I, and eyes. It sounds different, yes or no? Super, no? Super, super different. Well, that's precisely what I want you to see in this particular topic. Any question right now? Any example you can think of?
Declarate.
Declarate. Spanglish. The verb in English is declare.
Oh,
Aha. In this particular case, it's not.
okay.
Another.
Mm-mm-mm. Modify.
Very good. Modify, which comes from the noun modification. Very nice, eh?
Create,
Create, very good, which comes from the noun creation. Good, eh? What else?
Specialize.
Specialize, very good, which come from the adjective special or the noun speciality. That's the one, very good. And
Prioritize.
prioritize, very good, eh? Prioritize is another one, which comes from the noun priority, which is here, et. You see?
Yes.
Priority, which is a noun, and prior, which is an adjective. Prior exists too. And that's the source word. Look at how many transformations we have. These specific things, these specific transformations are the ones that can help us extend our vocabulary, make it bigger, make it wider, and have a better vocabulary process. All right.
Yes.
Do you have any question here? Yeah, I think you understand this very, very well. Very, very well. So this is the topic that I'm preparing you to check. Okay. The objective for the next classes will be to learn how to transform nouns into verbs. Okay, using these specific syllables, these specific endings, and get familiar with more and more and more and more words that have this specific syllable. Okay, but right now we are going to start checking the video of the week. Yesterday we were talking about Bigfoot, right? So today we are going to continue talking about these mysteries happening around the world. This is going to be the topic of the week, mysteries. So the video that we are going to do is the following one. Please pay attention to the screen and tell me what you understand. Okay? Let's go. Attention.
This is the last photo taken by a group of experienced Russian hikers the night they disappeared in February 1959. Here in the remote Ural Mountains in western Siberia, they were on an advanced winter hiking trip, trekking hundreds of kilometers through frozen wilderness. The photo shows them digging a platform in deep snow to pitch their tent along the slope of Kolatsiako, which translates from the language of the indigenous people of the region, the Mansi, to Dead Mountain. Hours later, the hikers abandoned the tent and all of their equipment in the dark. Weeks later, a search party found the tent, half destroyed and covered in snow. It had been cut open from the inside. Frozen bodies, most of them barefoot and wearing just their sleeping clothes, were found 1,500 meters away. Meaning something drove the group from the tent so fast there wasn't even time to unbutton its entrance or put on the heavy winter gear necessary to survive the conditions outside. It would take another 2 months to locate the rest of the group, all of them dead, their autopsies revealing severe internal injuries that were hard to explain. Dozens of theories, from alien encounters to government cover-ups, have developed ever since. But basically every theory tries to answer the same question. What made them leave their tent in the first place? The deeper you go into the Dyatlov Pass incident, named after the group's leader, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, the less things tend to add up. So, for the sake of this video and explaining what potentially happened that night, let's stick to the most basic facts. This is a rough diagram showing where the bodies of the 9 hikers were found in relation to the abandoned tent, stitched together from hand-drawn maps made during the initial investigation and from descriptions in the case files. The bodies were found in 3 groups. These 6 died of hypothermia, the rest from traumatic internal injuries. These 2 visuals will help piece together a picture of what happened to the group after they left the tent. The search party found footprints leading away from the tent that disappeared into the snow after about 500 meters. Continuing in their direction led to the discovery of the first 2 bodies, under a cedar tree 1,500 meters downslope from the tent. They were wearing almost nothing and had built a small fire. They froze to death. 3 more were found after that, in a straight line from the tree as if they were trying to make it back to the tent, which, in minus 30-degree temperatures and without proper clothes, was basically impossible. They also froze to death. The last 4 weren't found until about 2 months later, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine. And this is where the investigation starts to get more confusing, because unlike the rest of the group, 3 of them had experienced severe internal trauma. Dubinina and Zolotaryov had multiple broken ribs, and Thibaut Brignol had a major skull fracture, internal injuries that their autopsy reports determined were fatal. The investigation's forensic expert compared their injuries to the trauma that results from the shockwave of a bomb. But there was more. Zolotaryov and Dubinina were missing their eyes, and Dubinina was missing her tongue. She, along with Kolevatov, were wearing clothes that were contaminated with excessive amounts of radioactive substances. In spite of many unanswered questions, the lead Soviet investigator, Lev Ivanov, closed the case on May 28, 1959. He concluded that no crime was committed, citing the hikers' lack of external injuries and that all of their valuables were intact, and that the cause of death was overwhelming force, which the hikers were not able to overcome. Since then, dozens of theories have attempted to explain what happened that night in 1959. Murder at the hands of the KGB, a Yeti attack, Soviet military experiments gone wrong, and, of course, UFOs. Most of these theories lack substantial evidence, and some of the more disturbing elements of the case aren't so mysterious after all. The missing soft tissue, Zolotaryov and Dubinina's eyes and Dubinina's tongue, for instance. Their bodies were found in a creek, and Dubinina in particular was found face down. The coroner concluded at the time that these were post-mortem changes due to natural decomposition after months of exposure to running water. But 2 theories in particular, each involving an overwhelming force, offer plausible solutions to the 2 most important questions of the case. What drove the hikers to abandon the tent the way they did? And what could have caused the tremendous internal injuries that some of them sustained? One of these theories has been considered and debunked for years: avalanche. Because this area isn't considered prone to avalanches, and the internal injuries don't match those typically found in avalanche victims, who mostly die from asphyxiation after being swept away by snow, this theory has often been disregarded. But a scientific paper published in January 2021 demonstrates that the hikers could have been hit by a very specific kind of avalanche.
My name is Joan Gaume, and I'm professor at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, and I study snow avalanches.
Joan Gaume and his colleague, geotechnical engineer Alexander Puzrin, developed a model that simulates a rare type of avalanche that could have impacted the tent: a delayed slab avalanche.
The entire slab moves almost instantaneously. As it races down the slope, it breaks into large blocks. At its actual speed, it becomes evident why the wind slab is called the Big Killer.
A slab avalanche occurs when a heavy concentration of snow forms on a less concentrated weak layer.
And when the weak layer fails, this failure will propagate across the slope and eventually release a slab avalanche.
In the Dyatlov case, the trigger for a slab avalanche would have been cutting the slope in order to pitch the tent. But whatever drove them down the mountain occurred hours after that.
We believe that the strong winds brought some additional snow on top of the tent, and this led to progressive accumulation and ultimately the failure of the weak layer, and thus the avalanche, which impacted the tent and the hikers. And we showed that this type of impact could explain the injuries of some of the hikers.
Trapped under a heavy slab and potentially fearing a second avalanche, they cut their way out of the tent and made for the tree line for protection. This theory, constructed by data-driven simulations and models, shows that a delayed slab avalanche was possible in these conditions and could account for the traumatic injuries within the group, and doesn't attempt to explain anything beyond what drove them from the tent, like why the group was so underdressed.
We say that this is possible that such a slab avalanche would have injured them the way they were injured. Everything that happened after the avalanche is out of the scope of our paper.
It's not difficult to die on Kolatsiaker, on the Dead Mountain.
Richard Holmgren is a Swedish archaeologist who led an expedition that retraced the steps of the Dyatlov group in 2019. His group has a different explanation for how these injuries occurred.
The goal was to go there exactly on the same time, and we wanted to put the tent there exactly the same night. We thought that this might help us to understand their situation.
And after experiencing the severe weather of the region, his group came to one main conclusion.
In my view, the katabatic scenario is the only theory that would explain all the steps.
A katabatic wind is a powerful falling wind that travels down a mountain slope, quickly gaining speed under the force of gravity, and can create hurricane-like conditions without warning.
In a katabatic scenario, it goes very fast from strong winds to uncontrollable strong winds. It can change dramatically in seconds. It doesn't take any time.
If this scenario hit the Dyatlov hikers, the canvas tent would be at risk of being torn apart and would need to be evacuated immediately.
It's a matter of seconds, so the natural procedure to do in this case would be to cut yourself out very quickly.
And with temperatures around minus 30 degrees Celsius, their equipment would have been frozen stiff.
I know myself, just putting on one boot in these circumstances takes 3 to 4 minutes, one boot.
In the katabatic wind scenario, no one in the Dyatlov group is seriously injured at the tent, and these hypothermia deaths are explained the same way. The injuries happen in the ravine where the bodies were found. Remember, these bodies were found buried under around 4 meters of snow. They may have dug themselves a snow den for shelter that collapsed and crushed them.
The compressed chests were caused when the heavy snow collapsed over them, and it got heavier during the spring, during thawing.
The injuries could even be post-mortem. By the time the bodies were found, they had been decomposing under a crushing snowpack for months. On a freezing cold night in February 1959, 9 experienced hikers dug a platform into a slope to pitch their tent. Hours later, something happened that suddenly drove them into unsurvivable cold without proper clothes. A slab avalanche or katabatic wind are just 2 of many theories, and they actually have a lot of crossover. The slab avalanche theory needs katabatic wind to explain the snow transfer from the top of the slope, and the collapsed snow den in the katabatic theory is explained by a soft snow layer, the shelter they dug, buckling under a heavy slab. Both give compelling reasons for the Dyatlov group to abandon their tent and offer a plausible explanation for the mysterious injuries. Ultimately though, since there were no survivors, trying to account for why the hikers did the things they did ends up raising more questions than answers.
This is one of the most mysterious parts of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The behavior of the hikers after the incident, after what happened during this night, is probably the thing that will never be explained.
Oh my God. Okay, what happened to these guys? What did you understand? Who can tell me?
They abandoned the tent in extreme weather, and they found their bodies some meters after then, but two of the bodies have a mysterious injuries,
Yes,
and the scientists
correct.
want to identify what can make them that bodies.
What again?
What can cause that injury to
Okay.
that bodies?
Good. In past.
What could do that injuries to their bodies?
What could cause?
Could cause that
What
injuries
could cause?
to their bodies, and they have two theories. One about snow, and the other one about what was the name? I don't remember the name of the air with the snow.
This type of specific air, wind.
Yes,
No?
wind. And both of them can repel what the two bodies have that injuries, but not what the people behavior.
Exactly. The people possessive. The people
Have that behavior.
apostrophe S.
The people's behavior.
Excellent. Exactly. The explorer's behavior, which is nobody knows why they really did that. No.
Yes, I can imagine that when you are in that situation, you do a lot of things that are that have no explication.
Exactly. Yeah. When you are surviving for your life, like your actions are random and
Yes,
totally.
like when the people stop moving in a earthquake.
For
Where you
example.
can explain that.
When you're supposed to not to run, not to push, not to yell, but you start running, you start pushing, and you start yelling because
Yes, something like that.
yes, you are precisely doing the opposite side. You're surviving for your life. That's the difficult part. The interesting question is why they started talking about theories. Why do we start talking about UFOs, Yetis, and this type of creatures? What did
Because
you understand?
they abandoned the tent.
They abandoned the tent. What else?
The bodies were found with injuries, without the A's.
Exactly. Pronunciation. What's the name of this organ?
A's ball.
A is the letter of A, B, C, D. But what is the name of this? Eyes, exactly. Two of the bodies, no?
Yes.
Two of the bodies were found without eyes. What else?
And they were found 2 months later.
That's not a reason. They thought it was UFOs.
I don't remember the other reason.
Okay, help guys. What other reasons did you understood why they thought it was UFOs? Alex, it's...
I remember now.
You remember, okay. What
They have a lot of radioactive substance in them.
Yes, radioactive substance in them. That's super interesting, no? Why were they found with radioactive substances in the body if the problem was only snow?
That's the
No.
question.
I think that's the most worrying question, you know, like radioactive. What are you talking about? That's crazy. That's totally crazy. That's the part that I just don't understand. And the video doesn't explain anything about the radioactive substances. But okay, what do you understand, Alex? You are very silent. What happened with you?
No, I'm here. Try to understand because this video have too much information.
Okay, that's important to say. This video has a lot of information. Why do you consider it's too much information? Or what part you don't understand clearly?
I think the video have many words that
Singular, the video?
the video have many
You have, he, she, it.
Has, sorry,
Excellent.
okay,
Much better.
has many words that I don't understand, and I try to search to have a better idea.
Okay, wait, what are you searching? Well, because that could be, were you searching at the same time you were watching the video, or what?
Yes.
Okay, that distracted you from the video.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That don't try not to do that, because that's a strategy that is going to affect the comprehension. Sometimes we focus so much on a small piece of information that we are not going to pay attention to the bigger picture because we are distracted with one word.
Yes.
You know?
Sorry.
Anyway, what did you see? What part did you see?
The hikers lost in expedition. Lost.
Got lost.
Got lost.
Yeah,
an
because
expedition,
lost is when you lose your cell phone. For example, I don't find my cell phone, I lost.
Okay.
Get lost is to
Okay.
affect. They get affected.
Yes.
Repeat your idea.
The hikers get lost in an expedition
Past.
and
Present get, past.
got lost
Exactly.
in the expedition, and they have to try to preserve their lives, and they don't do it, no?
Exactly. Don't is present.
Those they didn't do. They didn't do it. Okay.
Repeat. No, you. They didn't what?
They didn't do it.
Yes, precisely.
Yes.
That's it. Exactly. That's the premise of the video, no? They died, of course, they got lost, right? And more specifically, it represents a mystery for the people who found them because of many reasons. Number one, the state of the bodies. No, yes. They were found with different injuries that were super strange. No eyes, no internal problems, radioactiveness in the body. So they were like, what? The other part that we were, or another reason that cannot be explained, are how do you call, and this is why I need a map. What's the name? Where's the map? I cannot see the map.
Massive amounts of radioactive.
I want the map because I want you to tell me what's the name of the things that you have when you step in a specific
Surface.
surface. What's the name of that pressure that you leave when you walk?
Steps. No.
No, because step is the thing that you
Footprint?
do. Very good. Repeat.
Footprint?
Footprint. Very good.
Okay.
That's the word. Footprint. Question. What was the particularity that happened with the footprints?
They found footprints going down,
They found footprints going down and then they
disappeared.
yes. So the footprints stop here, but the bodies appear here, which is super strange, right? Then there are other two bodies all over here with a fire, which of course died frozen. Plus all the problems that we mentioned before. These are the mysteries, the components of the mystery. And that's why this case is super interesting. Okay. Now, that's a video that we are going to be working with, right? And this is precisely the topic that I want to speak to you about, because this specific type of information usually contains verbs that are super strange. A lot of words, as Alex says, there is a lot of words that we are going to discover in this particular video. Okay, and the first things that we are going to find are the suffixes that we are talking about. Let's talk about, for example, the suffix, the first one, which is 8. Okay, let's go to the next. Right. And let's talk about the suffix 8. So the suffix 8 is used to form verbs with meaning cause to become like. Cause to become like. So there you have words like words ending in 8. Usually, the verb 8 talks about a regular verb. Do you know the characteristic of regular verbs?
Yes, they end with ed.
Ed, very good. So usually the suffix 8 gives you regular verbs. For example, if you have the base word, let's say accent, which is a noun. What else? Benefit, which is a noun. Circular, which is an adjective. And for example, the core, which is a noun as well. Accent as a verb.
Accentuate.
Accentuate, very good. That's correct. This is a verb when accent is a noun. Benefit, which is a noun, becomes beneficiate. Not that easy. Beneficiate. Circular, which is an adjective.
Circulate.
Circulate, very good. And the core, which is a noun, becomes
Decorate.
decorate. You see? Can you think of another one?
Activate.
Activate, very good. What else?
Appreciate. Could be.
Appreciate, very good. What else?
Regulate.
Regulate, excellent.
Create.
Very good.
Communicate.
Communicate. Excellent. What is the verb for necessity?
Necessitate.
That's correct. Sounds strange, but it exists. Yes, of course. Do you remember what we said about words that sound similar to Spanish?
Yes.
They are more what?
More easy to identify.
More formal.
Oh.
So
yes.
if you say need, is informal. Necessitate is super formal.
Oh, that's why I never heard it before.
Probably. If you read a science article or a very formal letter, you are going to read necessitate. Probably novels from different ages. For example, Little Women. From what's the author of Little Women? I forgot the name. I have it in my tip of the tongue. Well, Little Women. This type of like books from eras where people speak super formally. You are going to find this type of words. Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, this type of novels. You know, but something more common, for example, what is when you have the verb for operation?
Operate.
Excellent. The verb for participation?
Participate.
Participate. The verb for termination.
Terminate.
Perfect. Exactly. Which is again another formal. And then we have, for example, the verb for immigration.
Immigrate.
Immigrate. Motivation.
Motivate.
Etcétera, etcétera, and a massive, etcétera. There you have good examples. So please take notes while Jessie takes attendance. Good morning, Jessie. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So we're going to say attendance, please.
Yes, please.
Christian.
Christian, not here. Didn't come.
All right. Connie.
Here, good morning.
Hi, Connie. Good morning. Thank you. Itze.
Hi, sorry. Good morning.
Hi, Itze. Thank you. Good morning. Jesus.
Chucho, no. Didn't come.
Luis Alejandro.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Luis. Thank you. So that's all.
That's all. Israel, but didn't come.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Good night. Good day. See you. All right. Now, this specific topic is very interesting because when we talk from Spanish to English, we usually have some confusion. As you can see, there is a pattern, no? Some verbs that finish in Spanish end in ar, for example, acentuar, terminar, activar, apreciar, no? They, in English, they have 8 at the end. Activate, appreciate, accentuate, etc. There is a clear pattern for us, which makes and leads to common confusions. This is the most important part for you. There are some other verbs that don't follow this specific pattern. For example, from Spanish, declarar is not declarate, you know, which is a very clear example. And this is something that we can probably think, but when you go to the dictionary, oh my God, you see? So what is the verb in this case? Who knows?
I think I only know the noun, declaration.
That will be an interesting view. How do you transform? Exactly, it's by the exposition to the language, you will know that the word is declared, not declarate. We have another one. Curar. It's not curate.
Cure.
Cure. Very good. Well, for example, we have curate. I think it exists. It exists, but look, it's a noun. You see? And you will probably see words that look similar to the rule, but they don't correspond to the rule. This is a B2 ability. The first ability is to transform verbs in words, but the second ability is to dodge exceptions. What is dodge? Avoid, evade, pass, try to not to cross, you know? to dodge exceptions. What about not in English? Mira que voy a escapar.
Escape.
Yes, escapar
Fly.
is escape. Here is that. Very good. And I think that could be the ones. Capture. That's it. Those are the common confusions. See? So the rule exists. Some of the words are going to be similar to Spanish, but that doesn't mean all the words follow the same thing. There are always exceptions. The ability for a B2 learner is to identify the exceptions and know the specific transformation of words. Okay. Any question here?
Nope.
Sure. Okay. So I have a question. I have not a question, more like a welcome. Okay, because we have a new student, right? Today we are receiving Sophia into the class, and I want to know if you, Sophia, you understand what we are talking about. Good morning, girl.
Morning, everybody. Yes, teacher, I understand perfectly.
Yes.
Everything. Yes. The video, everything.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Do you have any question about the topic? Do you have any observation on the words or any idea of this topic?
No, exactly. I'm trying to remember because I know that this topic I have already
seen it, no?
Checked. Yes. So
yeah.
No.
Okay.
I just look in the class dynamic.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yes, everything is well. If I have a question, you know that I let you know.
Please, that's exactly what I was going to tell you. Very good. So if you have any type of question, any example, please be free to participate, because precisely the class is for that, for you to have the freedom to speak in any moment. Okay.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Good, very good. Which leads us to the second part. The second part is the suffix en. The suffix en is something that we don't consider a lot when we are talking from English to Spanish, because they are very, very different from English to Spanish. Okay, I'm going to show you that the word en, let's say, for example, comes from adjectives. En is the suffix or forming verbs. The meaning of this is to cause to be, to become, or cost to have. Okay. What is this cost? When I say cost, I mean that they transform into other things. They have a second transformation. Okay. For example, the verb, the adjective short. Short or the noun extension. No. Any adjective, short, and a color, for example, black, or a distance, for example, height. Short is an adjective, black is an adjective, height is a noun. So let's imagine you have a very long what else? What can be long? Let's imagine you have a very long let's strip. Do you know what is a let's strip? Let's strip light. This is a let's strip. Okay. And let's imagine you want to decorate your, what can be, your bedroom with these LED stripes. Okay. Your room is 1 meter per 1 meter. Okay, imagine. And you have 7 meters with you. You need only 4 meters, right? So what you need to do is to cut these 7 meters into 4. Do you agree? This contrary of extension, to make it smaller, is to cause to become smaller. To cause to become smaller. This is when you transform the adjective short into the verb
shorten.
Correct. Very good. Short. Definition, it's it.
Shorten, to make something shorter, to become shorter. Yes, shorten something. Injury problems could shorten his career.
In this context, what happened to his career?
To make it stop or to make it weird, short. Yes, to make it stop, I suppose. Take no longer there.
To make it stop abruptly, no? To interrupt his career.
Yeah.
What kind of careers can be shortened if you break a leg, for example?
Athleticism.
Athleticism. Of being a football player.
Something who construct a building. I don't know.
That's a mason. Mason, that's a name. Mason. This is a mason.
Yes.
Not this mason, like this mason. Yeah, because the other mason is different. But yeah, masons, etc. This type of problems in the leg can shorten a career.
Yes.
For my lead strips, I need to shorten the lead strips to decorate. I need to cut them. If I'm going to get a haircut, I'm going to trim it, and by consequence, it's going to get shortened. And these are regular verbs. So present shortened, past shortened. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I remember one very, very easy. Right. We are talking about clothes, especially when they have like these yellow stains. If you have very, very white shirts, the very old shirts, they get yellow. So you need a method like with different products to
Whiten.
Look at your toothpaste, and you will see whitening. Whitening something. It says over there. We need a process to whiten the teeth. Or the opposite way. If you have a black t-shirt, black jeans, they usually with the time they get gray. They stop being black. No? So you need a specific product to
blacken.
Exactly. Sounds strange, but it exists. To blacken the shirt, to blacken the pants, the jeans. If you have height, which is the distance from the ground to the sky, right? If you want to make it taller, then you
Heighten.
Heighten something. What things can you heighten? You can heighten an antenna. You can heighten what can it be? You can heighten a TV to make it go. No, but you cannot extend it. No. Something that is extendable.
There are some stairs that I heighten.
Exactly. Yes. Stairs. No stairs. Ladders.
Oh, ladders.
Yeah, because the ladder is the one that is portable. The stairs are fixed in the building.
Got it.
Exactly. You need to heighten something in order to reach higher places, etc. So now we are talking about new verbs, aren't we? Well, in the video, you're going to discover verbs that end in N, verbs that end in ate, etc., etc., etc. So this particular topic matches very, very well when we are talking about mysteries and things like that. So that's it. That's it for today. That's part 1 of forming verbs. Okay, do you have any question right now?
No, everything is okay. Thank you.
Super cool. Try to research and search some other words. So tomorrow you can help me complete the chart. Okay?
Sure.
Well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Have a very good day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye. See you
Bye.
tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye.